All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, man. The Los Angeles Lakers have reportedly offered Talen Horton-Tucker and a future pick to Boston for Josh Richardson. Now, this is really interesting as the Boston Celtics recently have actually been surging. Josh Richardson, good piece off of the bench. Keep in mind, this is a dude who just like 3 seasons ago when he was starting in Miami was putting up about 17 points per game. Now, I think what this really boils down to is Boston really trying to part ways with Josh Richardson in return for Talen Horton-Tucker? I would imagine a lot of the Boston Celtics players are open, available for trade. But I would imagine they're going to trade Dennis Schroeder before they trade away Josh Richardson. But let's pretend like this is possibly going to happen, because I guess it is possibly going to happen. Josh Richardson this season playing for Boston in his first year has played 43 games, averaging 25 minutes. The good news is shooting 40% from downtown. This is a career 36% three-point shooter this year, averaging just 10 points per game and a little under 3 rebounds. Now, he'll give you a steal per game. On LA, it would be really interesting because I would still imagine he would come off of the bench. I think it's very difficult for Frank Vogel and the just team in general right now to take Malik Monk out of the starting lineup. So Josh Richardson, whether he's starting, whether he's coming off of the bench, he would actually provide the Lakers with a lot. I mean, this is a solid offensive player. This is a solid defensive player. He's 28 years old. So he's been in the league for a long time, and he's actually played in the playoffs 4 separate occasions on 3 different teams, most notably the Miami Heat back in 2015, 2016. Now, the only year where he really did anything crazy in the playoffs was 2019, 2020, so just a couple of years ago, where he played 4 games for Philadelphia, put up 17 points, 4 rebounds, 3.5 assists. So that's a big reason why I'm a fan of Josh Richardson coming to LA, and this is something I talk about on the channel all the time, where you don't want guys who are going to crumble under pressure. Like, Malik Monk kind of worries me come playoff time because he could be red hot to end the season, and then come playoff time, you're under the lights. Defenses, they're clamping up. The passing lanes, the driving lanes, they're all way smaller, and everyone's just going as hard as they possibly can. And so young players, guys like Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk on this roster, there is a little bit of worry in my head. Not that they aren't capable of it, but if this is like a lot of these dudes' first time in the playoffs, or at least having their first time having like a key role in the playoffs, there is concern as far as consistency goes. So I think getting a guy like Josh Richardson, where he's young, but he's not old. He's been in the league for several seasons now, played on 4 different rosters, he's come off of the bench, he's had 30-point games, he's played in the playoffs. I think bringing in a guy like Josh Richardson, who's just been around the league so much, where you know he's going to come into your system, he's not going to cause any problems, there's not going to be any locker room issues. Sounds crazy, but Josh Richardson could be really valuable for this Lakers team. And this Lakers, they're desperate right now, man. They're absolutely desperate. Now, I still think there's better trades out there for Talen Horton-Tucker. My best guess as far as why this trade wasn't accepted is I doubt LA initially offered their first-round draft pick. According to this report, they just offered a future pick. My guess is they offered like a future second-round draft pick and Talen to kind of just test the waters, see if you can get Josh Richardson for that price. Now, over in Sacramento, you guys know, if you've been watching my channel, we've been talking about Buddy Hield. That's no longer possible. And now with Harrison Barnes, I just feel like the Kings probably actually aren't going to trade away Harrison Barnes. I think they're going to focus more on maybe Marvin Bagley. But Harrison Barnes might be here to stay in Sacramento just because they go out, they get Sabonis, they have De'Aaron Fox, they're going to make a playoff push, and Harrison Barnes is a really capable player, and he's only 29 years old. So LA tonight, they play the Milwaukee Bucks at the time of this recording. And I think, honestly, if the Lakers come out here, they get embarrassed, I would imagine a trade goes through tomorrow. I would 100% imagine a trade goes through tomorrow. Now, the good news for the Lakers is even if you don't get Josh Richardson, even if you don't get Harrison Barnes, or you don't get anybody, there's going to be a buyout market. And today, we've already kind of started to see some players swirl around in the buyout discussions. Guys like Robin Lopez, guys like Paul Millsap. But most recently, we had Thaddeus Young come out and say, or he didn't come out and say, reports came out and said today that if Thaddeus Young does not get dealt by the trade deadline, there is a strong chance that he ends up getting bought out. So that's a perfect match for the Lakers. Perfect match for the Lakers. This is also a perfect match for half the contenders in the NBA. Everyone's going to be licking their chops with the idea of signing Thaddeus Young. But what the Lakers can provide, which no other team can, is that you're coming here, you're playing with LeBron James, you're playing with Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook. That's 3 top 75 players. You're coming to Los Angeles. We've got a good, social life here. We've got a good team legacy, if you will. I mean, it's the Los Angeles Lakers, so you can come here, play for the Lakers, play with LeBron James, or you can go to X, and Y, or whatever have you. So the Lakers, if you don't get Josh Richardson, if you don't get a player, it's going to be okay. But ideally, I want to see Taylor Horton-Tucker get traded 100%, and I also would really not mind if the Lakers decided to pursue Josh Richardson for Taylor. So that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button, hit that sub button. I got you guys covered all trade deadline, specifically or especially with the Lakers. So hit that subscribe button if you guys want more. Drop a comment, most importantly, down below. Should the Lakers, should the Celtics, should they do this trade?